You are listening to Autistic Stuff for Autistic People, a podcast from the Autistic Peer Support Coaching Collective and Fox and Raven Media. I am Aradia. I am the creatively autistic coach and the podcast producer for Fox and Raven Media.
And I am Cheryl. I'm a peer support coach and body talk practitioner who works with other late identified autistic adults to better understand their needs, challenges, strengths, and unique wiring to live with more grace and compassion.
So yeah, hi Cheryl. We're back.
We are back.
How you doing today? What's on your mind?
You know, it's been a really interesting couple of weeks. And I'm in school right now. I'm taking a paralegal program, and it's the first time I've been in school since knowing I'm autistic. So all my other degrees, I had no clue. And, people have asked me well, you did your degrees fine. What's the problem? What's the issue? I'm like, the amount that it took out of me is the issue, right? It's not that you can do something or not do something. It's what is the cost? And so going into this program, that we're in class from 9 to 1 every day. So I thought, okay, that sounds like a great schedule because I can still, come home, have a little rest, and then, get into any homework or whatnot. But what I did not anticipate were things that are very directly to my ADHD, how to adapt to, and I don't really know how to accommodate. So I'll give you a couple specific examples. One is being around people, a full class of people for hours at a time, especially when we're allowed to do independent work and everyone is talking. And I put my little loops in, but it's still really hard. And I'm finding myself in physical pain, like my back is hurting, it's hard to breathe. I'm feeling like I'm gonna have a panic attack. It's very hard to concentrate. It's like all the words are just going in front of my eyes. I feel very overwhelmed, frustrated, and coming home after that, it just takes so long to get back to a baseline. The other thing I wasn't quite ready for was just the sheer amount of information coming at me and how much you have to memorize and study and learn and understand, but also contribute in class and talk and answer questions and produce things. So there's all these transitions that are happening within class, but then also after class. Group work, the group dynamics, the energy needed to manage people who are not necessarily getting along and who have different ideas about the final project and how to go about doing it, and being conflict averse. That doesn't really it's not a great situation. I'm trying to think. So yeah, just information overload, sensory overload, figuring out how to manage my time in a way that lets me still get other things done in my life. But the big one, and it's really big, is how much I'm struggling when it comes to information that I'm not interested in. And this is more than I could even put into words, because when I was in my other degrees, when I got my political science degree, I was interested in the material. We were learning about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict at the time. This was years ago. I was doing my thesis on, my final major research paper on sexual violence in the Congo, right? So it was human rights focused. It was, justice focused. And then so if I'm taking a class now, because we have all these 2-week modules, if it's on material that I am not interested in, I'm in pain. I'm in physical pain. And I try to explain that to a couple people, and I don't think it's coming across very well. I had 3 breakdowns on Saturday, sobbing, because it was so boring and it was so hard to get through, and it took me so much longer than I anticipated, and it was taking all of my energy. I was completely depleted, and there was no other time for things that do bring the joy or the dopamine, right? I feel like, I'm not really taking care of myself in other ways. So yeah, that's my big thing. So thoughts on that, or can you empathize, or have you had that experience, or what would you tell somebody in my position? Just power through, or is there something else maybe that you would not say in the neurotypical fashion.
Well, I would not say just power through, first of all. But yeah, that just does sound really hard. Going back to school sounds like a nightmare. The farther I get away from graduation, the more I'm like, never again. Every now and then I do get nostalgic for aspects of my studies or for things I wanted to pursue. But the farther I get away, the more I'm like, I'm so glad I'm done with school. So, first of all, that just sounds really hard going back. But the theme I was noticing in all of that was what you said at the beginning of like, you haven't gone back to school since understanding, what your neurotype is and what does and doesn't support your nervous system. And, you just did it fine before because you were, masking to yourself and others, right? You were just powering through on the, power of not knowing why things were wrong. Now you know. And it's one of those ignorance is bliss things, right? Because now, instead of going, what's wrong with me? You're going, there's my disability doing its disabling thing. And so that makes it harder to power through and ignore because now you know it's bad for you. You know how it's causing issues. You know what you want to do to take care of yourself. It's harder to keep doing the thing you don't want to do when you specifically know what the better way is. I think that, this is the thing that I've seen so much in conversations about autism online and in groups is, but I used to be able to do it. What is this skill regression? I wish I had never started on this journey. I wish I didn't know. That's something I've seen a lot. And so between all of your specific examples, I was just like, yeah, I can see where ignorance would have made just powering through that easier before. But now that you know that there's no dopamine for you in that module, you're not going to keep going into it expecting to somehow find the dopamine. You know there's no dopamine.
It's far, far away. It's far away.
Like, that's hard. That's really challenging because what do you do with knowledge other than do better? But the college experience is demanding that you do what you used to do, right? Like, that's a fundamental disconnect.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that you say that because ignorance is bliss, but it's also very damaging in the long term, right? Like, and we know that. But I think one of my big issues is that when I'm making decisions, I will often, and I'm going to say this nicely and kindly to myself, but I often focus on what is good about the decision, and I very much put all of the negative aspects, make it as small as possible. Which, sometimes in order to give us that momentum and kick in the pants, sometimes it can be good, but it also makes it difficult when those challenges come up. It's like we're not ready for them. We're not prepared because, oh, that's not going to be that big of a deal. And it is a big deal, right? Like, I'm now living alone. So I am responsible for grocery shopping and prepping my food and doing all the laundry and cleaning my house and driving now. I'm driving again. So I'm driving to school and back. I'm around people who, many of them, trauma dump because there's a huge amount of trauma in the classroom. I'm not quite sure why, but so many things have happened to people in the last year or so in my program that like are heavy stuff. So it's like, you're walking into that energy as well. And, I just wasn't prepared for the challenges. And that whole sunk cost fallacy is really tricky for me. And I don't know if it's the autism, the way I'm wired. I don't know if that's part of it or if that's just a personality trait. But the sunk cost fallacy, like, well, I signed up for this program and I applied for, funding and I got accepted and I packed up my stuff and I moved to a different city and I'm doing it come hell or high water. And it's like giving myself that little bit of a space to say, one, you don't have to stick with something if it's really not for you. But also looking at it from the other side, it's okay to do it, even though it's hard. Maybe you can be a B student and not, try so hard. Giving myself options, I guess, is the point, rather than just saying, well, no, it has to be this way, right? Giving a little bit of that gray space into it and kind of like looking a little bit deeper at the motivations for the decision. Why do I want to do this program? Is it because of my sense of justice? Is it because I'm looking for a stable job at the end? Like, this goes for everyone who's listening. Whenever we have a decision to make, it's okay to look at your why, and it's okay to make a different decision afterwards. Like, I think sometimes I'm really convinced that I'm locked in.
Yeah, that very literal black and white tendency towards perfectionism and absolutism, and yeah,
Yeah. I just
yeah.
sometimes I need to know that there's that little crack in the wall that, okay, let's see if there's other options. Like, is there a different way to do this program? Is there a way to bring in accommodations? Is there a way for me to, start bringing in some other things into my life that will make me feel a little bit more balanced and joyful, right? Is there something else that I could be doing? Like, there's many possibilities instead of just that one, that black and white dichotomy, right?
Yeah, when you said maybe you could be a B student, I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's great red flag on the play that maybe you're driving yourself a little too hard and maybe articulating what your lower boundary conditions are can be helpful. Maybe it's not A or bust. Maybe like in order to have a stable job at the end, you need a C average. So if you can aim for B, you're going to be doing a great split between perfectionism and the bare minimum and like I mean, that's yeah, there's like two really cliche sayings that are coming to mind. One of them is you don't have to cling to a mistake just because you spent a long time making it.
Oh, that's good.
That was one that I was really that hit me when I was in the middle of changing majors in my degree, which was a very unexpected and emotional pivot. And I saw that as a little inspirational meme quote and was like, oh, because that was a big part of it for me. I was like, I've spent 6 years working on this. Like, what do you mean I'm going to change majors like so close to the end? That's ridiculous. And then I saw that little inspirational quote and I was like, ooh, I needed to hear that. And I changed majors and everything went well. But then the other one is don't let perfect be the enemy of good or good enough. Creating upper and lower boundary conditions, really articulating them. You were saying earlier about you tend to focus on the positives, to the detriment of not considering the negatives. And I think sometimes we also consider like best possible outcome to the detriment of acceptable outcomes, right? There's so much gray area and nuance and play for an effective solution to whatever the problem is. And then, yeah, there's ideal, there's perfect, there's your but no plan survives first contact with the real world, right?
That's so true. And I think the other thing that's interesting is, you and I have both been in these, intentionally autistic spaces for a while now. And we've learned a lot from, other people, from a lot of different people, but we've all learned a lot through putting everything through our own, lens, our own lived experience, right? And so I think sometimes that can be tricky too, because like let's say I look around the room and it's like, well, most people are handling this fine, right? And I'm not. So it must be me. Instead of saying, well, perhaps it's not me. But even if it was just me, what do I do about it? Right? Because like I know for me, I live a lot in my head, just for the sheer necessity of survival. Right? It's hard for me to remember things, so I've got this like running commentary, and I often trust, my mind more than my body. Right? It's a work in progress, but the problem is that I'm noticing my body is screaming. And this is the issue, right? Like, yes, of course, we want to talk about, different ways of giving ourselves accommodations and compassion, but the body does have messages, right? Like, I'm not sleeping, right? My back is in agony. I was having a panic attack earlier. So, looking at things and being honest, I think is the first step in, being able to make a change, right? Because we are used to pushing through. But when we start to say, hey, my body's not my enemy, it does have a message here. Like, I need to just stop for a minute. I need to slow down. I need to listen, right? And it might be something as simple as even if your work's not done, you stop by 9 o'clock, for example. I'm just giving off the top of my head, right? So that you can still have your sleep hygiene and you can like be calmly relaxing, nervous system, not on fire. So there might be solutions that can come up in that silence and in that listening if we're willing to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The body is such a key. The body is such a hack into the mind sometimes, if you can understand like, okay, that's a problem. I'm gonna fix it. And then your mind often does relax a bit around whatever it's stressing about. But yeah, no, also it's that reality of like your body is something you can't get away from. Degrees, jobs, those come and go, but your body it's really here to stay.
I was gonna say it's pretty important for everything else. And I mean, I just want to clarify too. Like I know the way I'm wording some of this makes it sound like the mind and body are these two distinct, separate, pieces, but they're really not. And I know that. Deep down, I do know that. Like things that are going in my body impact my mind, and my mind impacts my body. Like it's that figure eight. Like both of them are, working together. It just sometimes feels like I've cut myself off at the neck. So it feels like it's separate, even when, I know deep down it's not, right? The mind is part of the body,
Yeah.
right? It is.
Yeah. But the tendency to pretend that they're not is one of the many coping strategies that people like us often pick up along the way. And actively working to counteract that is part of the work. Like verbally reminding yourself of it, but also physically reminding yourself of it, right? Doing a literal song and dance, not a metaphorical song and dance, right?
Exactly. And asking for help. I mean, that's been something that has definitely come up in the last month or so. Like if I don't understand something, I will look at a classmate and say, "Hey, do you understand this? Like, can you walk me through this?" And just getting to the point where you don't have to be good at everything. That you don't have to have it all in the bag and figured out. Admitting just your humanness. Right? We talk about admitting that we're disabled, which is vital because, I don't know how long it took you to use that word. It took me a little while longer than I would have liked to admit.
I think that's a fair assessment, yeah, for both of us.
But in some ways it's just part of my human experience, right? It's just part of being human is that in this human life I am disabled, right? Being human is not a bad word, being disabled is not a bad word. But accepting that and then living accordingly, there can be a lot of inner conflict on that. What has been your experience with that?
Well, one of the things is really acknowledging that if I am just human, right? Disabled and all the other things, but if I'm not some uniquely broken alien that has been sent here to test the patience of all normal people, if I am in fact just another human having one of the many human experiences, then that applies to the people around me too. And maybe some of the people around me who appear to be doing fine are not, or are doing so at a high cost that I don't see at home. Maybe people are looking at me thinking I'm fine and I'm just another normal person and they're the weird one. And like that was a process that I thought about a lot in my last few years in college in particular and on into, more recent years. And it turned out basically everyone that I connected with well in college also felt like a strange alien who was struggling uniquely compared to everyone else. Like those were the people I gravitated to and actually like maintained some degree of friendship with after college. And realizing that, and then like you said, reaching out for help, being like, this person and I have shared one sensory sensitivity in that one instance. Maybe we can help each other out with this weird question in the homework. And it's a feedback loop, right? You reach out about one thing and then you discover, oh, we're both having like not identical, but close enough to similar experiences that there's a snowball to build there. So I don't know, it felt like part of unpacking my own internalized ableism to say, I am not the only one struggling in this room. Just because I don't see it. If we're all about, because like we talk about it in our groups a lot, right? Autism is not an external expression. Autism is an internal experience. And it is ableism to only see people as autistic when they look like they're doing distress the way that the good doctor told us it looks. So by that metric, people who look fine next to me in the classroom might actually be completely not fine in that way. And it helped me have more compassion for myself to realize that compassion for others, like that for in my own body, not even in my relationships, that was a feedback loop unto itself.
That's really beautiful. That's really beautiful that you're having that awareness and you're starting to see, the things you don't see. And I thought that was really interesting. It's interesting. It's so interesting because today two things happened that very much relate to exactly what you just said. So one thing was our instructor was sick and we had somebody coming in to fill in. And we just hadn't really been taught what we were needing to do quite as in depth as maybe I needed. And so it was like, here, just go do the assignment. And anyways, it felt like my brain was like a runaway train. I was trying to find information everywhere. I was getting overwhelmed, but I could feel it in the room. I was not alone. I was kind of looking around. I was listening. I was hearing. I was feeling. I was sensing that I was not alone. Now, I don't want everyone else to be suffering, but it's exactly what you said. Like, I'm not this weird anomaly, right? This stuff is hard. It's new to us. It's new. It's like learning a new language. We weren't taught by the same instructor. Like, there's so many different variables, right? So I thought that was really interesting that I knew that I wasn't alone. The other thing, though, that this kind of connects to, I don't know if it connects to accommodations or masking or what, but I had somebody come up to me and like tap me on the shoulder today, and she's like, "Oh, you look better today. Like you look much less stressed." So clearly, I wasn't masking very well in the last few days. Like clearly, it was all over me that I was having a hard time because at one point she'd asked for my notes or whatever, but I was having a conversation about my project. So I was just like, "Oh, can we talk after?" And I felt like maybe I was too abrupt, but it was one of those things where it's like, in the past, I probably would have just tried to shove everything down as deep as possible. And now it's like, I don't have the ability anymore. So that's another really interesting kind of aha moment for me with like what you said before, ignorance is bliss, but it comes at a cost. Now I don't have that, but I also don't have the capacity to hide it anymore. Like my ability to mask has definitely dropped in certain situations. And I'm not saying one is good or bad. It's really not. It has nothing to do with good or bad. It's just the energy expenditure of masking was too much in that moment. I just couldn't. And it's scary though, because for many years, it's kind of, I've expected myself to be perfect, but not just in terms of like, doing the right thing, but like being helpful and being there for other people, right? And being the one that people can go to. And, this week that couldn't be me. It just wasn't. And being okay with that and realizing that my identity is so much more than just being a helper, right? All those labels that we put on ourselves. So I thought that was really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean that's I say ignorance is bliss, and it's not a good bliss. It's not a holistic, grounded bliss, right? It's short term. It's toxic almost because what you're describing now is not just that you're not able to do the mask, but you're choosing to be much less emotionally invested in that ability, right? You're coming to a greater place of accepting this is who I am and that's okay. And like that also gives you energy, right? Instead of going, "Oh, this is who I am and I am a problem. Oh no." Right? Like you're not perfect. I know from us working together for years, like, but I know that you're on that progression, right? You're saving the energy from the masking effort itself and also working on saving the energy from feeling bad about that.
And the other thing that connects to that, at least for me, I don't know if it does for you, but as we get a little bit less invested in those external identity markers and the labels and what other people may be getting from us in terms of help or stability or grounding or whatever at our own expense, as you kind of stop being invested in that story. For me, anyways, I'm much less concerned with everyone liking me, which again is a bit of an aha as we're talking about this, because I don't think I really realized it. The other day I was answering a question the instructor had brought forward, or somebody else had answered a question, but there was something wrong with it. And I put my hand up and just to kind of add on. And I could almost see myself outside of myself and hear myself outside of myself. And I was like, oh, was that too abrupt? Did it sound too harsh? Did I sound mean? And then I was like, no, stop. Like, I literally just said no, right? And I mean, we could go down the gender pathway, but like, if a man did that, they wouldn't be second guessing themselves for the most part 17 times, right? It wasn't personal, it was just information that I was adding on to the conversation. But like that kind of stuff, it's these little moments of my life and my worth and my energy does not have to go into being liked. I just feel like we need like some sort of a moment. like everyone else knows this already.
I do have an angel sound clip for that.
Something everybody else knows for years.
Yeah, no, but I thought it was just me hitting my mid-30s that was making that happen.
There is something to be said for as we get a little bit away from 20s and away from 30s. But I think yes, age and hormones, and there's a lot of shifts that go on around that. We could probably do a whole episode on that. But it also, I think, is impacted by how deeply rooted in that, you were maybe even as a child, right? Like if that was kind of the expectation to be pleasing to others, to be behaved at the cost of your own sanity, for lack of a better term. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, this could be another episode completely, but the responsible child, the mature child, the what is the expression?
Old soul.
Old soul, right? All of those labels that
I heard that. Yeah.
that got put on me, and I'd love to hear your labels too. But like all of those labels, they just hid that spark that was me, because everything got translated into how is this emotion, how is this feeling, how is this experience, how is this meltdown, how is this issue I'm having, how is it going to impact somebody else, how will they receive that, and will I still be accepted, right? And if you do that long enough, especially as a child, it's like it's just a Tuesday, right? You don't even think about it. You're just like, well, what do I need in this situation? Like the question doesn't even cross your mind, because the filter is there. It's going through that, what does the other person need, want, or expect? So I think all of these little aha moments today are kind of helping to, just realize that it's okay that people don't like you. It's okay if you're not living up to their expectation of you. It's okay if you're not even living up to your own ideas of what you thought you would be.
That's the toughest one, because it's easy to say other people don't know me, other people don't have a right to expectations of me. That's easy intellectually to say. It's becoming easier for me to somatically embody my expectations of myself. I do care what I think. I am the person that I'm supposed to matter to. So that one's harder.
But where do those expectations come from, do you think?
Right. I mean, that's the unpacking.
I know.
Is why do I have this expectation from myself? And why do I have this label? And yeah, definitely getting away from my 20s has helped a lot. It's definitely been a bit of an accelerant on that process. But the funny thing is, with not caring about who likes you, is that you end up with the people that do like you are people that you want to like you.
It's true.
It really does filter it out. The people that stick around end up being the ones that you actually want to hang out with and actually feel challenged by in a good way, and like that you want to spend your social spoons on them. So it's a really lovely double-edged sword in that way. But you do have to let go of the quantity over quality when it comes to social contact, which has been easier for me than for a lot of people for a wide variety of reasons involving my entire life story. But it's still a dynamic that even my reclusive self deals with.
Yeah, and thankfully that part has never really been a huge issue for me. I was always okay with a small number if it felt real and meaningful. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely been moments and time periods where it's like, oh, is there something wrong with me? Why don't I have more friends? Why can't I keep friends? But I mean, also, I mean, I come from a huge family, right? So you didn't have to leave your house to have people to hang with. And that's, I mean, that's another issue entirely. Get a little codependency going on there at times. But yeah, this idea of like where do those expectations come from is something that I have been looking at lately, right? Like, well, and especially that phrase, living up to your potential, right? That gets I loathe it with every
Oh my
fiber of my being,
God.
but it definitely got thrown around a lot as a kid, right? Oh my gosh, you have so much potential. And something I've been working on with my therapist, God bless her, is, we've been talking about like potential for what?
Boom.
Potential to work for somebody else, please somebody else, accomplish for somebody else. Like whoever's defining it is the one who's going to benefit from it, right? Because if they're saying potential is to do X, Y, and Z, but that's not what I want, then of course they're going to say I didn't live up to it. But I could definitely have done, something that was really in alignment with myself. But yeah, those expectations of, where you should be at a certain age or what you should have in your life or what you should be doing. And some of them have been there for so long. It's like, well, of course it's me. It's my expectation. And then when you do more digging and you start to unpack a little bit more and you're like, but who benefited from telling me that, teaching me that, like programming that, right? Who benefits from people pleasers? Well, the people that we're trying to please, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a never ending lifelong process for sure to get to the bottom of all that. Because sometimes, it's just your own personal expectations from your family. And sometimes it's like centuries deep social programming that we're all dealing with, looking at you, productivism.
Yes. But that goes back to what you were talking about with like unpacking your own internalized ableism, right? That, productivity culture and that for me anyways go hand in hand, right? And the second that I say the word should, right? Like, oh, I should have or I shouldn't have, just binge watched The Boys last weekend. I should have done X, Y, or Z, been more productive. And then you're like, stop. Stop. Where, that should for me anyways, that is the biggest underscore big sign whatever that I'm probably getting into some productivity culture or ableism or
Yeah,
just
time out.
not even doesn't even have to be that complicated. It could just be like a lack of self-compassion.
Yeah, totally. Totally. It doesn't always have to be that deep. Sometimes it can just be that you're being mean to yourself.
Exactly. And because of for me anyways, a misguided, well, if I'm mean to myself, I'll give myself that kick in the pants, then I'll get her done. It's like, well, maybe nothing needs to get done right now. Okay, Cheryl, maybe
Yeah, how's that 40-year experiment going? Has it worked
as
yet?
I'm slowly spiraling. No, but like, so yeah, the only reason I mentioned that is because even though, we've been talking about, capitalism and ableism and productivity and all that stuff, but sometimes even when I'm being mean to myself, that could be connected to those things because why else are you being mean to yourself unless it's to be somebody you're not or to be more productive or to change some behavior that you think is unacceptable, right? So like we somehow have got this message that being a jerk to ourselves is going to change us in some way. And like you say, how's that experiment going? We're like, hmm, yeah, not so well.
Yeah, I mean, in just like a couple of years of trying little bits of compassion to myself and little bits of, hey, you feel uncomfortable, what do you want to do? Just a couple of years of that, and my life has changed so much more than the preceding 30 something years of being mean to myself constantly. Now I'm only mean to myself like 95% of the time. It's made a profound difference.
Does it make a difference in terms of what decisions you make or how you spend your time or just how you feel or all of the above?
All of the above, honestly. Like, I had so much fear that if I gave myself a little break or a little treat in my workday, that I would never get anything done. And then eventually I realized that actually I just did need like a 5 minute break. I'm not necessarily going to wander away from work for the rest of the day if I take a 5 minute break. Actually, I will just sort of refresh and reset and then sort of find myself ready to go back to the task because now there's dopamine on the task again because I'm not pushing myself to do it. Like, but also that helps me be more motivated to exercise. It helps me care more about getting to sleep on time. It helps me care more about drinking water because now I care about having a headache because that's getting in the way of me. It's like this whole feedback loop where I just had to start with caring about if I felt good and what do I want and what if I just gave myself permission to have that without any kind of shame or caveats or timers or whatever. It turns out pretty quickly I've been finding rhythms that actually do make me able to accomplish my goals. The self-compassion has worked. Just a tiny little sprinkle, just an itsy bitsy sprinkle. I didn't overhaul my whole life. Just like one or two little things, and I was like, well, I mean, maybe a third thing would be nice. And like, again, works so much better than all the shame that it is piled up against. Like the proportions of shame versus self-compassion are still ridiculous, and yet the self-compassion is moving more energy in just a few years than all that shame has moved in decades.
I love that so much. I love that. Thank you for sharing that because if I commit to anything, I think it would be that. It would just be like, just look for those little moments of how do I feel? I want to feel better. So what do I need or want in this moment? And because if I was working with any other person, adult, child, doesn't matter, and they said, "Oh, I really need a break right now." Sure, yeah, let's take a break. Oh, I really, really have a chocolate craving. Oh my gosh, let's go grab something from the fridge. Like, there's no universe where I would say, just keep going. Like, let's ignore that. Oh, you have to pee? That doesn't matter. Just keep going. Like, I would never do that. So, yeah, let's turn it inward.
It's just a tiny little bit.
Little bit, little baby bit.
It's enough to make it start. And like, I know that I really like certain music and singing to it, and it's like I literally can hack my way into my own conscious loops by just forcing my body to like, hey, that playlist that you have that you can always like stim dance to, like the body will take over if you just put the music on, even if your mind is like totally spiraling out, and pretty soon you're like, mind has become distracted because heart rate has increased and rhythm has come into play. And like I feel very fortunate that I kind of had that as sort of a side burner stim anyway that has turned out to be such an effective skeleton key into my head. But different strokes for different folks. Goats are floated in many different ways.
But the big thing is you notice it for yourself. You recognize it, you acknowledge it, and you do it because you know it works for you. All right, and that's what everyone needs.
It's the awareness. Yeah.
That's what I mean. If I could give that key, like you said, to every single person listening, it would be that. And I know it's hard, and it takes practice, and like you say, it takes those little bits of compassion sprinkled in, like those little sprinkles on top of the ice cream. But I don't know. I noticed even the other day I was just exhausted, and I put on a baseball game because I'm a Phillies fan, and they're doing amazing now, and even more reason to celebrate. And just the guys that I follow, and their energy is just so like one of the guys I love so much, Brandon Marsh. He had gotten this hit, and he looked so happy, and I felt so happy for him. It was so contagious, and so for me, like that goes into my back pocket. That goes into my toolbox of, you know what? There's that energy. There's that joy. It's simple. I don't have to think too hard. And it just lets me, like, I was literally standing there in front of the TV and just going, like, you know what I mean? Like, my body was moving. I was cheering.
Yeah, totally.
And those are little things, right? I'm not advocating for like these big things. I'm just like the little things that, my breath got back to base. Everything, like, there was joy there.
Yeah, sometimes you don't have to think about it so hard. It just does. Is it literally lowering your heart rate? Is it literally lowering your cortisol? Done. That's all the data you need.
And for me, like, I find like if I notice that my body is actually moving forward to something, right? It's almost like that subconscious. I want to get closer to that. There's something there for me, right? So follow the things that are drawing you.
Yeah, it takes very small focused awareness on really small things. And yeah, even when you're dealing with really difficult things like a 2-week module of the most boring watching paint dry intellectual content, like Yeah, there are still ways to use your awareness of your body to like navigate that and support yourself through it. You might not be able to find joy in it, but if you can at least like lower the cost to yourself for powering through it, like that is still a victory.
And give yourself more time and energy to do the things that are, sources of joy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Like follow your body's leads. It's not going to necessarily be easy or possible, but at least I don't know. There's an agency in taking awareness of it, right? Ignorance is a certain kind of short-term bliss, but agency is its own kind of soothing thing. If you have any kind of agency over something, like, so I hate houseflies like so much. They drive me insane, and we live next to cows. So there are more flies around than there would be if there were not cows next door. And my husband at one point bought me one of those electric bug swatter things. Not necessarily so I could kill the flies, although I do, because I'm good at hunting those fuckers. But he didn't buy it so that I could kill them. He bought it so that I would have something to do when they were harassing me.
I like that.
And that has been what has been the most soothing, because like
Agency.
a fly is going to get eaten by a spider. It's going to get caught, like whatever. But having that agency instead of, because like I would just be sitting there in the kitchen just being terrorized by a fly. Like I can't think of anything else. If it lands on me, I'm having this like massive freak out. He gives me this electric swatter and it's like, all right, now I'm on the hunt. Now we're in a fight. Now I have something to do and it gives me agency. And now it's much more eustress than de-stress, right? I'm actually doing something that gives me power. And often I actually do get the fly. And that's a nice bonus.
Little dopamine there.
That's nice too, but it's a lesson I apply elsewhere in my life. It's like, what is the fly versus electric fly swatter model in this scenario? How can I find any amount of agency, even if it is just running around the house chasing something 1,000 times smaller than me?
And sometimes even, like you say, just the illusion of being in control for that moment, or just being able to take action, whether it works out or not, just knowing that you took action on something can definitely be regulating.
And chasing a fly around with an electric fly swatter is way less distressing to my husband than me like slamming doors and chairs and walls, right? I'm reacting somehow to regain control. What is going to be more soothing to the collective experience of that?
I like that. I will either get a physical electric swatter or a metaphorical one, but I will I will use that in my life.
Yeah, every solution is unique to the problem and to the person, but I think there are universals in understanding how to recognize what our body is telling us.
Mhm. And even like going back to that your beautiful quote about doesn't matter how long you've been making a mistake, like you're allowed you're allowed to pick a different path, right? You don't have to keep clinging to it. It doesn't matter how long we've maybe ignored our body's messages or how long we've maybe been mean to ourselves. It doesn't matter how long we're allowed to take a tiny step in a different direction whenever we choose.
Absolutely. We've got the present and the future. The past is set. Never too late to just try something else. And as I learned in one therapy thing I did, you can just try for a few seconds to not be mean to yourself. That script will be there waiting when you want to come back to it. You can totally pick it up again later.
You can put it down, yeah, just for a few seconds. I like that.
Just try putting it down for a couple of seconds. Like it won't go anywhere. It'll be right there, all nice and comforting and familiar, just as soon as you're done with this big scary experiment.
I like that. I like that a lot. And hopefully that reduces people's fear around making those micro changes.
It's like anything else. It's like building a muscle or building tolerance. You can start small and grow from there. It doesn't have to be a massive overhaul at once.
Yeah, because we know we have to make those tiny changes before we are going to feel any different. Like the action does come first. So
yeah, there's a degree of fake it till you make it. It's not fake it. It's more like trust the experiment to go through a few iterations before you judge its success. It's in the spirit of fake it till you make it, but it's more grounded. Yeah. Things that are unfamiliar are scary. You got to make them familiar before you can actually judge them against other familiar things. So I hope that some of this helped you with some of your angst around your program, and I hope that it resonated something somewhere somehow with our audience.
That was a great chat.
Thank you for listening to Autistic Stuff for Autistic People. As a reminder, we are all peer support coaches within the Autistic Peer Support Coaching Collective, offering a variety of free and paid intentionally autistic spaces. You can learn more and follow us at our website, autisticcoaches.com. You can best support the podcast by sharing this episode with your friends or joining our Patreon to access ad-free episodes. Thank you for listening to Autistic Stuff for Autistic People. New episodes come out on alternating Mondays. Send us your constructive comments and feedback via email at autisticstuffpodcast@gmail.com. Autistic Stuff for Autistic People is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website, foxandravenmedia.com.